Okay, this is taking an eternity, not even in focus. It's safe to say that Thursday's video is going to be coming out pretty late, because I haven't even gotten this uploaded to YouTube yet. So excited, I'm getting a new computer, been talking with Dell, or had been trying to get a hold of Dell. Waited a few weeks, somebody finally responded. The price fluctuated while it was sitting in my cart while I was waiting to hear back from them with some questions, and I was like, no, not paying your new price. That's been in the cart, and it was a much lower price. Like, it went up like $500. I'm like, that's crazy. But that will hopefully speed things up an awful lot, having a new computer. It's the XPS, Dell XPS 15 with the newest i9 processor, a terabyte of solid-state drive, and it's a beast of a computer. I'm very excited. I was going to go with a Mac, but the Mac I would need for this, for what I'm doing, if it was spec'd out the same as the Dell, would have been like $4,000 to $5,000, and that's not justifiable with what I'm using it for. So, didn't go that route. And so instead of being able to use Final Cut Pro, which is a great editing software, I'll be switching over to Adobe Premiere. Right now I'm using Cyberlink, and I'm kind of over it. I think using Adobe is going to be better anyways, because it has more of a learning curve to it, but it looks good on resumes. So if I were to decide I want to like get into video things in a different manner, I would have that to be able to put down. So that was the thinking behind that, and that's nothing plant related. So what's going on in here today? I was doing my Mealybug inspection. If you don't know, if you're newer here, hi, how are you? Welcome, hope you're good. I have been struggling with Mealybugs on these Areca palms for multiple years. From one plant I bought on clearance at Home Depot years ago, and it's been an issue ever since. Until then, I had never dealt with Mealybugs. I've tried systemics, sprays, all types of things. Nothing has fully eradicated them. I think that these Areca palms they're not the greatest plants for taking up a systemic. That happens with some plants, especially with older, more mature plants. I wouldn't consider this to be a mature Areca palm, but it's fairly old. I've had it for several years, but they can live a decently long time and get way bigger. This is still a baby as far as its size is concerned. I've read a lot of research on the Mealybugs and how to get rid of them. I mean, the main thing is that there's different types of Mealybugs, so how you treat them is also dependent on the type that you have. And systemics, some work, some don't. It doesn't look like there's a ton of resistance developed by Mealybugs towards systemics yet, which is good, but a lot of it is about how well the plant takes up the systemic and it gets into the foliage and then they ingest it. So last fall, when I brought these in, I said, that's enough, I've had it, I saw a few Mealybugs on these, I cut off all of the foliage. And I explained all of that in that video. The reasoning behind that was that the systemics get taken up by the newest growth. So it just made sense to me. Just cut it all off. They're Areca palms. They grow like crazy. They can survive it. It would be all right. And then hopefully the new foliage would have that systemic in it. Well, I mean, I guess you probably can infer from either the title of this video, who knows what that's going to be, or what I've been talking about, that didn't work. It didn't work at all. Now, I'm not going to be able to get a good focus on these guys, but you can see the discolored spots on the leaves. Those are Mealybugs, a whole bunch of them. There was just a gigantic hatch out sometime in the last few days, so I got to get on top of that. I have this piece of plexiglass here, which I never have explained, I don't think. That is there because I did apply a second dosage of systemic into these Areca palms several weeks ago. Probably about a month ago, because you gotta, about every 6 weeks or so need to keep going with it. And I can't have that soil with the systemic splashing back into the pond. It's dangerous, it'll kill the fish. And that's another reason I can't use fuller sprays, because that can drip off, runoff can happen, and then kill the fish. I have to protect them. The water is a little cloudy again. I put those catappa leaves back in, and then it just, like, I haven't learned my lesson from that. So, since I can't use chemicals in here, systemics aren't working, can't use foliar spray chemicals, and the systemics are not effective, as I have learned. I've tried a whole bunch of different types, orthene, and a whole bunch of different things. Nothing's done it yet, so I think what I'm going to have to do is go the natural path, which I always prefer anyways. When it's winter time in here, I usually will use I'll use rubbing alcohol. I'll spray that down because that desiccates this waxy coating that they have. Mealybugs have a waxy coating on them that repels a lot of insecticides. So the rubbing alcohol, isopropyl, helps break down that wax, that oil. And then I will hit them with either a diluted peppermint oil or a neem oil. The foliage has gotten so high on here, I don't want to use those chemicals because they will still run off. And though technically safe, still not a risk I'm willing to take, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the isopropyl, the rubbing alcohol, and I will spray it down, then take a damp sponge and wipe the foliage clean to get that off of there, because it is a desiccant. It will dry out the foliage if the foliage is soaked in it and I don't wipe it off eventually, you know, got to get that off of there. So that's step one. Step two, beneficial insects. There is a type of ladybug that is supposed to be very effective at eating mealybugs, called like mealybug destroyers. The problem with those is, one, they're very expensive, and two, they don't ship very well in the winter time. So I'm not going that route. I'm going to go with lacewings. I already placed the order. I have 10,000 lacewing eggs coming in the mail. If you're not familiar with the lacewings, how that works is they usually come in a bag with like some corn husk in it, so that when the eggs hatch, the little babies have some stuff to feed on, and they crawl out of there and they eat mealybugs. They call the larvae soldier beetles, or soldier larvae, and they consume mealybugs like crazy. I know 10,000 sounds like a lot, but from the reviews from the seller, it sounded like a lot of people were not having huge hatch out rates, and it's kind of cold outside too, so I went to the extreme, and that is more of a preventative measure. It's going to have to be a combination of me using the rubbing alcohol and wiping it. I'm going to have to remove them by hand, which is going to be a nightmare because there's probably thousands of them. And then those lacewings should arrive in the mail hopefully sometime within the next 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm doing everything by hand. Then after that, I'm going to have to step back and hope that natural control works with those lacewings. Because once the larvae are on there, any chemicals I use will kill them as well. So I'm going to have to be very diligent the next couple of weeks. It's going to be very time consuming, mostly the first round, probably, hopefully, if it's done right. And then they're on, it'll be like spot treatment. I don't have a ton of the rubbing alcohol, so that's definitely not going to get me through 2 weeks. I will have to go to the store and get some more, but this is enough for today at least. I'll just put that in a spray bottle and spray the foliage down, wipe it off with a sponge. That's just how I'm going to have to get things started with that. So that's what's going on with the mealybug apocalypse that happens every single year. Now, this year when I move these palms outside, I did this last year too, I'm going to spray them heavily with a chemical to remove them, which worked fairly well last year. It got some. The problem is that mealybugs have different life stages, and in their younger stages, they're tucked away into spots where a lot of the chemicals can't get to them, a lot of bugs can't get to them. There's like a 45-day process between eggs being laid and hatching and then developing and moving around, which is a really long time. A long enough time that you have to keep spraying over and over and over again. I don't like to go crazy heavy with my chemicals. But at the same time, I'm over it. So if that's what I gotta do, it's what I gotta do. I will move them outside, and I'm going to unpot them. These Areca palms need to be repotted anyways. They've been in these pots for years. They need some fresh soil. I may have to do a root pruning, which is okay. They're a tough palm. They can handle that. And when I do that, I'm going to knock out all the old soil. I'm going to use a bleach solution on the roots to help sanitize them, kill off eggs, anything that's down in there, because certain types of mealybugs lay their eggs down below the soil. So that's why all that's got to go out. And then I'm going to very, very, very heavily bleach and sanitize the pots, let those dry completely, clean them out very well, rinse them very well, put the palms back into these guys, so that way, hopefully, anything that's down in the soil that the sprays aren't getting, that's going to help get them out of there, basically. Whew! Okay, I think I covered everything I want to do about the mealybug situation. Somebody asked me on Instagram about whitefly and what to do in an enclosed area, and a lot of it is very similar to what I was just saying, because you don't necessarily want to use chemicals when you're indoors or in an enclosed area. They make a trap you can use, or like a yellow sticky trap you can hang. Those work really well in combination with using a natural spray, and then make sure to change those traps out often, check them often, change them often. That can make a big difference in controlling those and cutting that back. But you got to keep doing it for a while, because just like the mealybugs, they have a life stage, and so those traps only catch them when they're flying. The problem with spraying for whitefly is that you're having trouble focusing on things. The problem with spraying for whitefly is that when you spray them, they just, whew, they flutter off. They fly away. They go all over the place. So you only get a few of them at a time. So the traps are a good way to go, but you got to keep doing it. Got to keep that up. And then if you have aphid issues, mealybugs are great. Or not mealybugs, ladybugs. Ladybugs, actually, they'll eat a lot of things. And ladybugs, even the regular types of ladybugs, will eat mealybugs, just not in the same quantity, not in the same way that the ones that are like known as the mealybug predators will eat them. But it's not as great. The lacewings, the soldier beetles, seem to be a really great way to go. And they also help control whitefly and aphids as well. So that's why I went with the lacewings. It would be nice if there were some type of lure and attractant you could use for mealybug control. There's some really interesting research out there about some things that they've been doing. I don't know, it was University of Oregon maybe. I don't know, the study was done in Oregon with the grapevine mealybugs, where they've been using traps like sticky traps that have a pheromone in them to attract the males. And it collects them. I don't know if it's making a huge difference in the infestation problems. The results were like kind of significant, but not huge. But it was definitely attracting them and sticking them in, and they were getting stuck into the traps. But that doesn't really exist for the mealybugs yet. Hopefully someday. Another issue I'm having out here, well, there's two other problems. One is ants, happens every year. They're a little bit easier to control though. For ants, I use these Taro liquid ant bait stakes. I know it says outdoor. I mean, I'm kind of outdoors. The thing I really like about these is that they have like a notch in them that's angled downward. So when you water, I'm going to try and get this to focus so you can see what I'm talking about. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? There we go. So it has an attractant in there, attracts the ants, they go in, they take the bait. Eventually it gets to the queen, kills her off, and that helps control the problem. I like these stakes a lot. You can stake them right into the soil of the pots, and like I said, the hole has a downward angle on it, so that water doesn't get in there and just flush them out. I've tried other types of lures, or not really lures, but the things where they come and take the baits, basically. They take the bait, take it back to the queen, and when I water, it kind of destroys those. So these have worked fairly well, and they come in an 8-pack. They're not terribly expensive. I mean, here's the thing. I feel really bad about killing bugs, even when they're like a nuisance bug. Ants are so cool. That shouldn't matter if I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think it sucks. It's kind of sad. They're living creatures. I don't want to kill them, but you kind of have to. The ants eventually can take over those pots and can cause a lot of problems with the plants. But there are plants, though, that have like a symbiotic relationship with ants, but I don't really have... Well, I guess I actually do. I have an orchid that's like that. But that's not the majority of what's going on out here. So this is for the ants. Then the other issue that I've had out here have been stink bugs. Now, there aren't a ton of them, and I don't know if you'll be able to see them. I usually see them up inside the light fixtures. There's several. I've just noticed that there's more this year than in previous years. So I do have a trap coming in the mail for those as well. It's like a bottle that attracts them to crawl into. I just want to make sure that that doesn't get out of hand, because that really can't. Those things can take over very quickly. So I need to handle that. I can't use sticky traps out here. So even if there was some type of lure I could use for the mealybugs, I don't know if I'd be able to. And the reason I went ahead and I did some looking around, the reason I can't use sticky traps is because there are some lizards out here. I don't see them terribly often, but they're out here. When I see them, it's just like a blur of them running away real quick. And I welcome the lizards. They're good to have around because they eat a lot of bugs, but I'm not mealybugs, unfortunately. And so the lizards would get stuck to those sticky traps. I don't want that to happen. I get really sad when it comes to animals, even bugs, being harmed. So that's what's going on with that. I don't want to kill the bugs, but I mean, you kind of have to if you want to protect your collection. Part of that is doing it the most humane way possible. I mean, who knows what the most humane way really is. I suppose traps really are not very humane because they get stuck in there and they have a slower death. I don't know what else I can do for the stink bugs, though. I can't use any sprays, like I've mentioned, because any runoff could kill the fish, who I'm trying to protect, because I clearly, just call it out, I hold them at a higher value than I do the bugs. That's just the way it is. And then lastly, I think I said that there are just two more. There is another one, which is a very common problem for a lot of people with indoor plants, especially moisture-loving plants, and those are fungus gnats. I don't know, you can kind of see them swarming around over here. There's usually a cloud of them in this area. I think they really like back here where the appologize are. It's a little bit dark, it's kind of damp, they seem to flourish. So for those, I just use the mosquito bite granules, which are, I think I just used the rest of my jug and tossed that out, washed it out, threw it in the recycling. Let me see if I have something to show you. Okay, I do not. I don't know where it is. But look what I found. They were on the shelf. I forgot I had an extra bottle of them. This is what I was talking about. The mosquito bits. Also controls fungus gnats. Says so right there. And like I said, just sort of kinda. Okay, back to the video. I guess this is the whatever. The way that works is you just kind of scatter it around the top of the soil, work it in a little bit. As you water, it's a type of bacteria that helps to kill them off. It's made for mosquitoes. Works okay for the fungus gnats. Clearly not perfectly, because I still have plenty of them, but there has been a noticeable decrease. It's one of those things where it'll probably take several weeks. Like I said though, or actually I didn't say, I'm about to say, it's sort of hit or miss. Sometimes I've noticed it works well, and sometimes not so much. Oh, and I did want to mention, I want to do some reading, and you guys comment and let me know. I want to do some reading on beneficial nematodes and what they can do for the things in the soil. Like I mentioned, the mealybugs lay their eggs in there. I don't know if nematodes would have the speed in them to get into those eggs and the babies before they crawl out of the soil. I don't know. But it never hurts. You know, keeping things organic, they're beneficial. So that might be another route. I just need to look into it a little bit further. You know, typically the beneficial mealybugs, beneficial nematodes, that was hard to say, is great for like grubs and those sorts of things. But I don't know for certain, like I said. Something I want to do some more reading about. But you guys know anything about it, comment down below, let me know. Any tips, suggestions, comment below. That'd be good, you know, go down, read through the comments, see what other people have to say about things. This is just kind of the things I deal with year to year out here, and been trying to find a way to get rid of those mealybugs. The systemics that I have tried have worked on my other plants, just not these areca palms. So they haven't spread terribly to my other plants. The cordylan back here, the fruticosa, right there, those things are mealybug magnets, which is why I've kind of sequestered it. I've tucked it away onto this little island here where there's water all the way around everything, nothing's touching the foliage. Doesn't matter, because the mealybugs, they can sort of fly, but I figure it's safer there than just like meshed up into the foliage. Lastly, I have an update about the palms. These, I was saying that I thought maybe the situation was root rot. It happens sometimes. I had freshly repotted these, so that seemed odd to me, but though the soil could have been contaminated. But I went ahead, I did some digging around in here, and the roots looked okay. So I think that what actually happened here was heart damage, which is something I was worried about. When I repotted these, okay, background really quick. Back in October, we had an extremely cold, unforecasted night, dropped into the 20s, which it wasn't supposed to. And they seemed okay, but cold damage can take several weeks to show up. I decided I'm going to go ahead and repot these. It's really not ideal timing. I'm going to have to be very careful because with the cold damage, they're going to be extra sensitive to having their trunks messed around with. Bruising can happen very easily in the heart of the palm and kill it. So I ended up pulling them out of their pots a few weeks later and repotting them. When I did that, it was a struggle getting them out of their old pots. And I think that they were in a weakened state because as I had my hands around the trunk, I could kind of feel movement in there, which that's not a good thing. But at that point, the palms were already on their sides and out of their old pots. So I was like, well, I may as well, I'm going to stand them back upright, may as well stand back upright into some fresh soil. And so what heart damage is, well, you know, the heart of a palm, people eat them. I'm not a fan of that because you got to kill the palm to get the heart out, and who wouldn't want to kill a palm tree? But hey, some people love it. So basically it's like there's a kink that forms in there, and that kink, that damage or bruising, it stops the availability of nutrients from being able to travel upwards, which makes sense in this situation. So I think that that's probably what happened. I treated them with the fungicide when the spears started to brown off a little bit, but it was very mild dosage, and the fronds never pulled. So it wasn't stem rot, wasn't crown rot. And looking back on it, I don't even think it was root rot. I think that the hearts got damaged. Soft-trunked palms sometimes can be very delicate. I've talked about that before. I think I talked about it in the video when I was repotting these even, that was something I was concerned about, and I was trying to be really careful, but I'm just, there's nothing you could do. That's one of the reasons certain palms you don't find available all over the place, like sable palmettos. Down south, you get them as great big sticks, super cheap, plop them in the yard, wait a few years, hopefully the crown flushes back out, and they're beautiful and simple and easy and cheap. Up north, even though those are a very hardy palm tree, up here in St. Louis, I don't see trunk specimens, obviously, but the sable minor grows well. I have a palmetto in my backyard, but it's just foliage, no trunk, no woody trunk on it. But those don't ship up here. They don't ship well because all those hours on the truck, the people who do bring palm trees up here, the way they explained it to me, was basically you get the heart damage. They can't take it. And sometimes it happens with shipping palms as well. Like, it'll look fine and you're watering it and it's just things aren't making sense. Sometimes there's damage somewhere in there and that bruising spreads and nutrients just can't get up there. So that's the update with these guys. I need to get them out of here, obviously. This one I already cut the top off, and I'm going to do the same with this one back here and move some things around. That's all going to be kind of boring and chore-like, so I'm not going to waste time, you know, waste your guys' time doing that. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and that is everything. I wanted to talk about bugs, pests, and those sorts of things, what I do in my space and how I handle it. I had mentioned peppermint oil being great. I dilute that. You probably put about maybe 2 teaspoons in a decent-sized water. Where's my water bottle? So I put just a couple teaspoons in there. This is, well, more than 30 ounces. That's where the line stops off on there, is at 30 ounces. I fill it with hot water. Give it a good shake. You want it to be strong enough. I make the concentration strong enough, the solution I should say, strong enough so that when I do spray it, it's very pungent, like your eyes tingle a little bit. I like it to be strong. And then I go in and I spray the tops of the foliage, the undersides, and you want that to run off. The peppermint oil, it coats the insects and kind of suffocates them, which just, it sounds horrible. It's very mean. I don't like doing it. I've already been through that. I'm not going to go through the whole entire, my internal guilt struggles again. However, it works really, really well, and it kills spiders too. I don't really care about killing the spiders because they eat other bugs, but I have had issues around here in my house with the, what are they called? Cellar spiders, where you don't know you have them, and all of a sudden there's just thousands of them. They're tiny, they look kind of like a daddy long legs. They're pretty much harmless, but they're annoying, and nobody wants to live with tons and tons of spiders. And this works really, really well for that. But it is something that works on contact. So it's not like once it dries, it's not doing anything. And the smell does help deter rodents as well, which is nice. I have parrots inside and I have a hamster, so there's seed, and sometimes that can attract those things to come into the house. It hasn't in years, but it can help with that also. And I have read some things about people putting this on like cotton balls and putting it in tubes, and it does something with ticks. I don't know anything about that. That could all just be, you know, folklore. I'm not sure. But yeah, overall, it's all about monitoring, staying on top of things, not letting them get out of control. The Mealybug, it's just, it's been a struggle for years. I hate them. And it's just these 2 palm trees. I mean, they will move around to the other plants now that they're in abundance over here, but everything else does have a systemic in it, though that systemic is probably weakened out by now. I don't think I can get enough plexiglass to completely cover everything, so that's why I really need to get on top of it. So I'm going to spray this with the rubbing alcohol. I'll be spraying the foliage down, then I'll hit it again. Maybe hit it again with the peppermint oil and or neem horticultural oil. But for now, I'm just going to do the rubbing alcohol and start removing them by hand. I think that's probably the best way to go until those bugs get here, the lacewings. There was a slight mosquito problem in here. Every now and then, I do get a mosquito bite. But the fish in here eat the mosquito larvae. So there's a type of fish. They're like a gambusa something. They're mosquito fish. They're a live bear. It's a minnow. They swim around the surface. They're known for eating mosquito larvae. Almost all fish will eat mosquito larvae. You don't have to get those, but the mosquito fish are nice just because they swim at the top a lot, and they eat them in an abundance. But I also have a fish in here called giant danios. There's some mollies, even a couple of gouramis, the paradise gouramis, which is a gourami that can take cooler temperatures. I have some of those in here, and just about everything eats that larvae. So haven't had any issues with that. And the water circulates very heavily in here, so I was surprised to have any problems to begin with. Any mosquitoes that were in here probably came in with the plants. Oh, but the point, for people who don't have a pond in their grow space and can't put mosquito fish in it, the peppermint oil, that works well for the mosquitoes as well. But like I said, it's an on-contact kind of thing. And you can use those mosquito bits, sprinkle them around, the granules that is, sprinkle them around onto the soil to help kill off larvae if you have plants that are really, really, really damp, because the larvae, they don't need much water to survive and grow. Okay, that's enough. Covered everything. Hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, get a conversation going. Put your tips, tricks, suggestions, struggles you're having. Maybe you need help with things down there in the comments. You can hit me up on Instagram at Tropical Plant Party. I have the rest of my social media linked down below, down in the description of the video. Sorry this wasn't a more like exciting video. My videos have been kind of intense to edit the last several, so I wanted to keep it sort of simple. And I don't know if you've noticed, but my camera is struggling. It's hanging on by a thread, so I just didn't want to go overboard with things. Kind of trying to take it easy this weekend, which I hope y'all are doing too, or whenever you're watching this, not necessarily on the weekend. Taking it easy, having a great time, having a great life. Everything's just beautiful. And don't forget to leave the video a thumbs up. It helps a ton. I do notice it. It's like YouTube gold. It's what keeps things moving and grooving, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. And subscribe as well. Upload multiple times a week, so don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you know when new videos come out. Oh, and I have these nepenthes in here, these pitcher plants. The humidity is kind of low with all the heaters running, so they don't put out really big pitchers. They tend to put out their pitchers with more humidity. That's what I was trying to say. They have a few pitchers on them, though. There's some teeny tiny little bitty baby ones that are popping out there. Those also help with flying insects as well. Having a carnivorous plant around helps, but it does, I mean, in theory, it also attracts them. But this is an enclosed area indoors, so hopefully it's only attracting things that are already in here. Or obviously it is, because it's like 10 degrees outside. Alright, I hope everybody's doing well. I know I said it before, but I'm saying it again, because that's how much I mean it. As always, and most importantly, everybody, keep on growing. Bye!